Good morning.
Good morning.
You can change your life by changing your thinking. You probably heard that before, right? It wasn't new? All right, all right. Are you doing it? Are you doing it? Is it easy? What stands in the way? What gets in the way? My message today is accepting change. Accepting change. And I want to focus on personal changes and the obstacles that we face when we truly decide to make lasting changes in our lives. The obstacles. According to the author of our book of the month, Beatrice Olson, obstacles and setbacks are an inevitable part of the change making process. Okay, that's encouraging, right? How we navigate those obstacles and setbacks is part of our growth. It's part of our evolution. And it also is how we come out on the other side with the change. It's the process, right? It's what we go through during the change process. Have you ever decided to make a change and suddenly family and friends begins to come and go, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Let's talk about my hair. Have you noticed I'm going gray? I'm letting it go. I'm letting it grow in. Oh well, there'll be a few days it might not be, um, but I decided in July that I kind of had enough of going to the salon every 3 weeks for a very long time, and I just decided I'm done. I'm done. Now you may have an opinion about that. You may think that's great. You may think that's awful. You may judge it. You may envy it. You may not care in the least, right? It is, however, a change that we're all going to walk through for the next several months as we go through this process. And probably a lot of different hairstyles in between, too. So just get ready for that change. I thought about doing it for a long time, and I've always gotten talked out of it by friends and family. Oh, no, 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 you're too young. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm not ready for you to do that. No, don't do it. And I would step away. Or I'd watch people do it and fail, go back to color after a few months. Or I'd seen people not do it well. But I have changed my thinking and I'm going to change my hair. So there you go. So, what change have you attempted in your life only to get talked out of it? Only to get talked out of it. Maybe you changed your food plan and you told some friends about it and you're out to dinner and you're at a great restaurant and at the end of dinner the waiter comes up with the dessert menu and says, anybody want desserts? And you go, no, thank you. And your friend goes, gosh, this is the place with those great cream puffs. Let's do dessert. We'll just split it. We'll just split it, okay? Everybody have that experience? Or maybe we're starting a fitness plan. We're going to get early to go to the gym. And the family doesn't support that early to bed requirement to get up early to go to the gym. Something happens, things get busy. Oh, let's go out. Oh, one more episode. Favorite words, right? One more episode. And you wake up the next morning, you're too tired to go to the gym. Many of us have experienced this type of resistance when we started our spiritual journey, right? Particularly if we're transforming from another faith tradition. Is that a cult? What is the science of mind stuff? Is that like those people on TV that get brainwashed? Is that what's happening to you? What's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? Anybody? The majority of work with any change that we do is up to us, right? It's our work we have to do. It's our work. But accepting the actual process of change can be challenging, not only for us, but for our friends and family, external family, the external friends. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the internal, right? And that ancestral being that we have, that all the stuff we've grown up with, so to speak. This is the external group that influences us. And I mean, let's face it, they do, right? They do influence us to a certain degree. They're comfortable in our relationship. They know who we are. They know how to be. They know how to show up. They know what's going to happen. It's comfortable. It's easy. So when we start to change, remember lizard brain? The lizard brain with the fear, the fight, flight, or freeze pops up. Ooh, something's changing. What's the impact of your change going to be on me? You've started a new eating plan. What's that going to do to me? Do I have to change? You've started a new program for health and fitness. Do I have to change? What does that look like? Are you still going to like me when you change? These are all subconscious things that start to bubble up in our friends and family when we decide to make a change. The author of our book of the month tells a story. One of her patients, she was a cancer patient. She went through chemotherapy, and during the process, she lost a lot of weight, a lot of excess weight that she'd been carrying for a long time that she had tried unsuccessfully to lose. So when she came through the chemo and she'd healed and it was back on track, she liked her new body. She liked her new smaller body and the way that she felt, and she decided that she was going to work to maintain that. She was going to maintain that. Now, her husband was concerned about that because he saw thin body, sick wife maybe lose her. So he was constantly bringing her snacks and sweets and ice cream and heavy meals and everything, trying to fatten her up because that was his safe space with her. That's how she was healthy. This new skinny person was not a healthy person in his mind. So he had all this subconscious stuff coming up. The wife understood this. She understood this. She'd been seeing Dr. Olson. And so she used one of Dr. Olson's practices called generative conversations. Olson says these are conversations where we communicate our needs and intentions in ways that engage others to support us, with the intention of not activating their lizard brain, right? We don't want to scare them, but we want to have a generative conversation, she calls them. And I think we can all agree that conversations can be empowering or disempowering. They can be connecting or disconnecting. We've seen that. But what if we could all communicate in a way that goes beyond just being polite? That goes beyond, that doesn't disintegrate into misunderstanding and division. What if we could communicate that way? What if we could have conversations that foster deeper connections and serve both parties? Pun intended. Dr. Olson says the goal of this type of conversation is that both sides gain insight, grow from the experience, develop trust, and leave with a better understanding of each other. Sounds wonderful. Imagine if everybody communicated that way. Well, you know it begins with us, right? So how do we do that? How do we do that? The first step in generative conversation is to become clear about what we as an adult self need, what we want the other person to know, how we want to communicate with them. This means that we have to be prepared for that conversation. We have to be present. We have to be grounded in our adult spiritual self, not coming from our wounded child. I'm changing. You have to agree with me. I'm doing it my way, and I don't care. You just have to accept it. That's not going to get us there, is it? Probably not, but sometimes we communicate that way. So what she's suggesting is that we don't do that. Dr. Olston suggests, and I happen to agree tremendously with her, that meditation is a wonderful way to get ourselves centered. Would you agree? Yes, yes. It brings us to the present moment. If you have a breathing practice, that also will bring you to center, connecting with the higher self and the inner wisdom within us. When we can enter conversations from this place of grace, we aren't as likely to activate the other party's reactions, fears, right? Another important ingredient in this type of a healing conversation, because that's what they are in effect, right? It's a healing conversation, is to try and see the other person without judgment. By being supportive, accepting, compassionate, we can embrace their spiritual divinity and know that this is really God talking to God. Imagine that conversation. My God self talking to your God self. We set the intention to create an open space for curiosity, compassion, and creativity to coexist in one conversation. And remember, they've made assumptions about this change you're making. And you've made assumptions about the assumptions they've made about the change you're making. And you know what making assumptions does for both of us, right? So we just don't want to do that. So this practice of healing or generative conversations helps us to help others accept our change. Helps us help others accept our change rather than resisting and sabotaging them, even if it's subconsciously or unconsciously. Another example from the book happened after 2020 when folks began returning from the work from home phase. And this patient came back to work, and she had been very successful during the work at home with losing weight and eating more healthy, and she had trimmed down when she went back to the office. What she noticed is that she was receiving some judgmental looks and some passive aggressive behavior, and suddenly the staff meetings and the kitchen were all stocked with ooey gooey sweet cakes and candies and all sorts of stuff. She wondered what was going on, and she began to get frustrated because there was so much temptation around. And so at the next staff meeting, she brought it up to everyone. She said, hey, would it be possible to have a few more fruits and vegetables in the office to snack on instead of all these sweet things? And I said, well, why should we do that? We like sweet things. And she said, well, I was diagnosed before the work from home that I was pre-diabetes. And so the way that I was advised to change that was to change my health and my eating habits and my fitness level. So I've been doing that. I was able to do that while I was home. I was able to really commit to it and do it. And I've lost the weight. And I'm tempted by all of this. And I would really, like some support with not having all that around. She was vulnerable. She was centered. She was compassionate. And what happened is it opened up a dialogue with everybody who began to say, gosh, I'm so proud of you. I tried to lose weight during that time, and I gained weight. And someone else said, I'm facing health challenges too, and I haven't taken those actions. I'm really proud of you. I support what you're doing. So out of that vulnerability, that compassionate conversation, came this connectivity within the office, and they were able to make then collective decisions on better choices of food in the office. Better food in the office. Generative conversations where we ask for what we need and want and are willing to receive the support we ask for. Willing to receive the support we ask for. This is the key components to our growth and well-being. and to the success and happiness in our relationships. Rather than taking sides and going to corners, rather than just getting mad about something, to open up that dialogue and have that generative healing conversation with others. So generative conversations are another tool, spiritual tool in your toolbox, your spiritual toolbox of transformation. We've gotten so many of those this year. We should have a pretty full toolbox by the end of the year. I hope you're using them, and I hope that they're working for you. So anytime that we decide to make a change in our lives, it's important that we're prepared for these obstacles and setbacks. In Science of Mind, we may not like to think that way, right? I'm not expecting them, but we need to be prepared that if they do show up, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle it? Are we just going to go back to the old way? Or are we going to stay grounded and centered in our change? Are we going to try to work with the obstacle? When we can look at those as setups instead of setbacks, that it's setting us up for moving through that obstacle to get to the other side, to get to the change that we're seeking to experience, we can begin to have generative conversations. We can begin to get the spiritual and emotional support that we need in order to keep moving through that change. Isn't it easier to have support with a change than have resistance from friends and family? Sure. We'll use Ron again. Ron is stopping smoking. And I did that about 35 years ago. I still remember what it was like. Anybody else? Yeah, you were not fun, right? Yeah, 3 years. Yeah, not fun. So I can walk this path with him, and I can be there for him. And I knew it was going to be challenging for him. I know it might be challenging for me too, but we're getting through it. We're doing well. He's doing well. But imagine if I had resisted that. Imagine if I was still smoking and insisting that I'm still smoking around him and insisting that he smoke around me, right? I mean, just crazy stuff like that. Crazy stuff like that. So it's easier when we can walk through change with a supportive network. And we have a great spiritual support network right here in this center, in this community. You have professional practitioners available to you 7 days a week. We're here for you. We are here for you. Dr. Olson calls these power partners, not just us, but any of our support group, power partners. But I liked it, so I stole it. So who are your power partners? Who are your power partners that support you and walk through the trials and the challenges of life, support you in the changes that you're making? If you don't have someone, please see Reverend Lee or myself after the message this morning, and we'll help you understand how to plug into this community. You can, any one of the three of us, look around the room. You've got prayer partners all around. We're here in support in this community. Making lasting changes in our lives, lasting changes, is one of the most profound areas of spiritual practice that we'll ever undertake. It requires not only spiritual discipline, but it requires a focused approach and support of our friends and family. The next time you're trying to make a change and it seems that you're faced with obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, I invite you to remember what Benjamin Franklin said. He said, all great victories, be they in business, politics, art, or seduction, involved resolving problems with a potent cocktail of creativity, focus, and daring. When you have a goal, obstacles are actually teaching you how to get where you want to go, carving you a path. So transforming obstacles into opportunities is the first step to transforming you. So if you would like to receive more information about these life-changing principles, you can sign up for Mindful Monday. It's a newsletter that comes out every Monday morning from Reverend Lee or myself, a recap of our talk and the practices that we're going to talk about right now, so that you can use those and work with those throughout the week to continue to deepen into these spiritual practices. So your practice this week is generative conversation. Pay attention to opportunities to practice having a generative conversation. Set your intention for the outcome that you want this conversation to generate. What do you want? This is not sales, negotiation, coercing, convincing. It's a generative conversation and dialogue. Meditate or do breath work to become centered in your higher self and your adult wisdom. Practice the conversation out loud to find the right words. Allow yourself to be vulnerable and to ask for help and be willing to receive the help that you're asking for. It's not about a win-lose competition situation conversation. It's about asking for help and receiving that help. And be aware about not making them wrong and activating that ancient brain. Be aware about not making them wrong. The purpose is mutual understanding and deeper connection. Accepting change and helping others accept our change will help keep us all growing in the right direction. So it is. Comments or questions this morning? Anyone? Hi, Lori. Them?
Thinking them wrong. The choices or the people?
The person you're talking to.
Oh.
Not making that person wrong. Yeah. For having an opinion. I don't care if you don't like my hair. I don't care if you don't like my hair. Exactly. Yes, Lori.
So you gave us some good examples about stories where people became supportive, where the conversation was productive and successful. What do you do when that doesn't happen? When people give pushback?
Keep talking. They don't want to talk anymore. They're done talking. Why? Are they angry? Agree to disagree? Don't like the change we're making? Yeah. I would take it on a case-by-case basis. But if I was having a generative conversation with someone, I would be doing that because I was making a change that they were unhappy with. And that change that they're okay, I'll use Ron again. Sorry. Almost a year ago, I became a vegetarian, gave up meat. His concern, what about me? What about my food? Do I have to be a vegetarian too? And he was concerned about that because he didn't want to be a vegetarian, right? And it took time and multiple conversations and actually more experience of the new habit with me and his no lack of meat in his life and his meal prep and so forth to understand that the change wasn't going to negatively impact him, it was only going to positively impact me. So if we're dealing with family friends that are important to us, I would assume they would want, and that's just that word again, I would hope that they would want to understand why we're wanting to make the change and how it benefits us, and that we're sharing that information with them to the point where they understand that. And while they may not agree with it, can they understand it? He would much rather I go out and have a steak with him. I get that, but it doesn't appeal to me. But we can still go out, and I can have shrimp and he can have steak or whatever. It's about sharing our truth in a way that is open and honest. And if the other person, and having, if it's a friend, family, loved one, they're going to understand that you're going to make this change. They may not agree with it, but what's the workaround to keep the relationship whole? Close? Okay. All right. Anyone else? No? All right. All right. Oh, would you join me in a prayer this morning? So as we go within, we just breathe into that eternal space, recognizing in that breath is the allness of God, the divinity, the peace, the wholeness, the wisdom and intelligence, that infinite love that is unconditioned and unconditional. It is the largest and most infinite thing we can imagine and the smallest thing we've never seen. It is that which has created all. And all of that is here now, present, in, through, and as me, in, through, and as each of us in this room, surrounding each one of us as it is everywhere present. There is no place it is not. And it's not just part of it in some place, it's all of it every place, everywhere. It is that infinite in its expression. And each of us is united in that wisdom and intelligence, the grace of the divine, the ever-giving God, the spirit, the presence, the essence, the universal source of all. We're united in that. Not me and God, we're one. And so from that place, I speak my word for and about each of us gathered here this morning, knowing that we're each whole, perfect, and complete in this manifestation, that we are the allness of God in form, and that God lives, moves, and has its being through us as we live and move and have our being in it. We are the outpicturing of it. We are living its life through us, through our choices and decisions, uniquely as only each one of us can, evolving in each and every breath and each and every moment into our greater yet to be experienced self, ever expanding, ever growing, ever changing. I know for anyone this morning that has anything on their heart as they lift that into this prayer, that we as a community of support surround them with our love and our prayers, knowing the complete and total manifestation of that prayer this morning, whether that includes healing, resources, creative expression, love, prosperity, whatever it is. We accept and claim that for them right here and right now. And so it is with a grateful heart, filled with thanksgiving, joy, and gratitude, that I release this prayer into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is done, it is so, and we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.